IREN versus Bitcoin, active rebalancing between the two, the future of AI, the wealth generation and the productivity that will come from this with the scarce, decentralized, hard money aspects of Bitcoin, the perfect regime from which to rebalance within. Let's explore. The interesting aspect of IREN is that it's quite a complicated product. It's much, much more complex than some of the other products that I've played with so far. And it's the first foray really into individual stocks. You know, normally I've worked on Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, which is really just a Bitcoin derivative, and the derivatives there of that ecosystem. So what we have is we have price action at play across IREN being pushed through Bitcoin because it has that hybrid Bitcoin miner AI data center play. We have the AI sector narrative that's feeding into the IREN's price. We have the general equity market forces coming from the NASDAQ, being listed on the NASDAQ, as well as, you know, that idiosyncratic aspects of IREN itself as a company feeding in to create price action. And we need to understand how these move in order to make intelligent rebalancing decisions. So let's see what I've come up with. Here is the entire price history of IREN since their IPO in late 2021. And what we can see is that they bottomed out at around $1 and are now trading around $56, which is a phenomenal increase over the last 2 years, 3 years, not even 3 years. It's not bad, right? And of course, we wanted to be able to wear this upside while also balancing into Bitcoin at the same time. So the problem with this view is that it's not a view of IREN's price on a Bitcoin standard. And so what we can do is we can quickly convert this chart to IREN's price based on BTC. And how we do that is we quickly go to IREN and we say divide by BTC, and I select Kraken, which is fine. I also multiply it by 1,000 just so that the y-axis has a number that is attached to it that is, you know, meaningful and useful. So currently that number would be like less than 0.1, and it just doesn't really, it's not really meaningful. But what we can do is multiply by 1,000, and now we have IREN's price on a Bitcoin standard. And what we can see is we can see periods where things have been going down on a Bitcoin standard and periods where it's going up. And of course, recently, since April 2025, we had an amazing increase just past when IREN announced that it was going to be a AI hybrid Bitcoin mining company. It was going to suspend its growth in its Bitcoin operations, which I think it did in March, and then only prioritize AI, at least for now. And we've had this massive run up in line with the AI narrative. And what we want to be able to do is rebalance our investment portfolio into IREN when things are going up and back into BTC when things are going down. Now, the problem with this IREN-BTC Bitcoin Standard view is that you can't use it that well if you don't have a premium TradingView membership. And so I've specifically designed the tool so that it can work on both the IREN-BTC USD chart, but also just the standard IREN chart. And we're going to go back to that view now for simplicity. So here we are back on the standard IREN chart, but with the Mangosteen IREN-BTC rebalancing tool applied to this chart, with green representing when we should be in IREN and orange representing when we should be on Bitcoin. Now, the key thing to understand is that this is working on IREN on a Bitcoin standard, just overlaid on the standard IREN chart, which makes it a lot easier for the majority of users to use on their standard TradingView accounts. So that is the great beauty of this product at the moment. Now, key thing to see, if we want to see things a bit clearer, is we can enable the flags and alerts. And we can clearly see where we want to be in Bitcoin and where we want to be in IREN. And we can see the ratio of IREN and BTC is generally reasonably well aligned. Like when IREN is going down on a fiat basis, it's generally wanting to be in Bitcoin anyway, despite this actually operating technically on a Bitcoin standard proposition. So this is really cool. What we have is the return on IREN over the last 4 years at about 550%. You can see the market is live at the moment, so that's varying in real time, with the Bitcoin buy and hold being at around 108% return, which is still, you know, not bad. The IREN versus BTC is about 212%. And we can see that active rebalancing between IREN and Bitcoin considerably outperforms that performance. So that is awesome. This is just a long-term macro chart. The IREN-BTC rebalancing tool is actually intended to operate on the 30-minute chart, and I'm going to show you that now. So here we have the IREN-BTC rebalancing tool on a 30-minute chart with the performance for the last 12 months. And we can see clearly when we're in green, we want to be in IREN, and when we're in orange, we want to be in BTC. And they don't cover perfectly because it's thinking about things from a Bitcoin standard point of view. But we are balancing into Bitcoin, and then we are balancing into IREN on the runs up, back into Bitcoin, and then recently we've been back in IREN. And the logic here is really, really powerful. It's designed to make sure that you are exposed to IREN when things are going well and going up, but you are back into Bitcoin when things are going down. Now, when we think about IREN as a company and its part in the AI narrative, is that IREN is now an important part of the hybrid AI data center Bitcoin miner narrative, and it could be that for the 5, 10, 15 years, we don't know. It could be a small part of the AI revolution, or it could be a large part. And the price discovery that we're occurring right now is determining where it sits in that position. And these things could change. Remember, there's still a lot of company-specific risk associated with IREN, and IREN could go into some sort of issue and could fall out of favor where we want to rebalance back into Bitcoin. So that is the beauty of this product. But again, if IREN continues to run up, we remain exposed to IREN. So that's great. Again, we have our performance over the last 12 months on this chart with IREN doing about a 580% return. And we know that over the last 12 months, BTC is down around 30% making the IREN versus BTC return around 900. But luckily, because we have the Mangosteen IREN-BTC, we are achieving around a 1200% return, which is fantastic. If you're interested in the tool, you can find it on my website, mangosteen.global, where you can get a 2-year subscription to Mangosteen Private, which will give you access to the IREN-BTC rebalancing tool, as well as my broader Bitcoin and MicroStrategy ecosystem. As a corollary to whether IREN is going to survive or die, if you're worried about whether Bitcoin is going to survive or die, being part of the Mangosteen private network gives you access to Mangosteen BTC Original, and this provides you with the ability to manage your price risk with Bitcoin. And so if IREN is dying and Bitcoin is dying, then you can fall back onto this one as well and find your way as to whether you should be in cash or not. That is the benefit of the Mangosteen private ecosystem. So if you have any more questions on the IREN-BTC rebalancing framework, then flick me a comment and I will happily answer it. I read and answer all my comments. And if you have any thoughts on maybe what the next stock could be or the next index could be that you'd want to see an active rebalancing approach to, then flick that through into the comments as well. And if you find this fascinating and you want it to be shared, then please like and subscribe. It really boosts the algorithm and helps me to share this framework with the people that find it valuable. So why are we looking at IREN versus Bitcoin, or why are we looking at AI stocks versus Bitcoin in general? Because it's a really, really powerful intersection. And I love this quote by Peter Thiel in his 2020 Forward of the Sovereign Individual. He says, "In truth, the great conflict over our mega-political future is only just beginning. On one dimension of technology, the conflict has 2 poles, AI and cryptography. Artificial intelligence holds out the prospect of finally solving what economists call the calculation problem. AI could theoretically make it possible to centrally control an entire economy. It is no coincidence that AI is the favorite technology of the Communist Party of China. Strong cryptography at the other pole holds out the prospect of a decentralized and individualized world. If AI is communist, Bitcoin is libertarian." Awesome juxtaposition and the perfect segue into why we might want to active rebalance into AI or AI-oriented stocks versus Bitcoin as our active investment strategy. So I want to explore this juxtaposition a lot because I think it's going to be a big theme and potentially a theme from which a lot of subsequent work is going to come from. And what we have is that centralization force of AI, right? It has that centralized infrastructure, tremendous amounts of data center capability that can only ever be owned by 1, 2, or 3 people. Mass surveillance and control, permissioned systems, it's opaque. You don't really know what's going on. It's going to create a tremendous amount of job displacement and dependency in people's lives in order to remain competitive and relevant. And we have Bitcoin on the other side, right? Decentralized, permissionless. It's financial freedom, scarcity built in, perfect scarcity, and global and borderless, right? This is the individual, the freedom that we can see in a money that is not owned by a government, right? And what we have is this duality where both require tremendous amounts of energy, where AI and Bitcoin will likely compete for energy, where Bitcoin sets the base price of energy and AI creates the value add from which energy is built upon, right? And I think that's the super important aspect of why we need to understand when we should rebalance, because while Bitcoin is probably going to be around forever, AI is going to look very, very different. And we're going to have companies that come up and come down and come in of popularity and out of popularity. And you're going to have the trend, the secular trend between AI and Bitcoin, where energy is going to be drawn towards AI. And when AI is sort of commoditized, that energy might flow back into Bitcoin and strengthen the network. So super, super interesting play. And this is why we're exploring it here at Mangosteen. If you're wondering who I am just a humble Mangosteen with a background in finance, economics, accounting, and engineering, and professional experience across corporate strategy, finance, including time as head of investment and treasury for a multi-billion-dollar corporate. And I want to cultivate the next generation of active investors from suits to steel caps through renegade financial education and strategy. If you've liked what you've seen here and you think the tools that I'm using are really, really powerful, which I obviously believe that they are, you can acquire a 2-year license at the moment through Mangosteen Private. Check out my website, mangosteen.global. There's a 5% discount when you pay in Bitcoin, and there's obviously a 14-day no questions asked refund policy. So if you buy it and you decide it's not for you, then feel free to email me and I will refund you, no worries. And disclaimer, this channel does not provide financial advice or any advice of any kind. Everything is for general information and entertainment purposes only. It does not consider your personal objectives, financial situations, or needs. Reference to any financial products are factual only and do not constitute recommendations. You must do your own research. Any investment or trading decisions you make are entirely your own. This is entertainment only. You are listening to a random Mangosteen on the internet.